Texas men's basketball looks to keep their tournament hopes alive.
The women continue their quest for the Big 12 tournament title, and the Sticks were back in action.
All this and more on College Press Box. Welcome to this week's edition of College Press Box. Thanks for choosing us as your entertainment on this rainy Monday night. And get ready to talk Texas sports because they sure didn't take a rain check this week. Now, Reese, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
How did you get your hair to look so perfect in this awful weather?
Well, I wouldn't say it's perfect by any means, but there is a great place called Supercuts, and it's a real miracle worker.
It looks much better than mine. I had to redo it 3 times. Now let's get down to business. At the beginning of the week, Texas hosted the 14th ranked Baylor Bears, and tensions were high as Texas looked for the upset to keep its hopes alive for a spot in the NCAA tournament. Let's head out to the Frank Irwin Center for the highlights. And here we have Medford with a quick pass to Cherry for the jumper. That puts Baylor ahead and off to a quick start. Then we have Gathers. Oh, he's going to get a pass and just nail it into the paint. Let's see. Baylor off to that quick start. Texas trails still and absolutely lays the dunk down. There we go. Miles Turner actually gets the Texas offense going as he hits a mid-range jumper, but Texas is still behind 3-9. Now Gathers gets the layup and draws the foul. There he goes. And we have a missed field goal by Medford right here, and then got the tip in by O'Neal. And Baylor leads 24-16 heading into halftime. And DeMarcus Holland, O'Neal, that was the tip in, I'm sorry. And now we have the brawl on the bench, the scuffle following the Taylor tip in. And now here's the game winner for Texas. Here we go. Oh, Texas wins in overtime, 61-59.
Well, after the heated victory over the Baylor Bears, Texas hit the hardwood again, looking to light a fire, and not the one under Rick Barnes' butt, and prevent Texas from bursting its own bubble in the NCAA tournament. Let's head out to the Jum again for 2015 Senior Day. Might as well call it Jonathan Holmes Day. He's the only senior scholarship player on the Texas roster, and Texas would be looking to take down the Wildcats. Coming up, it's that senior Jonathan Holmes. A terrible attempt there, but lucky his buddy Miles Turner has his back for the putback. Now it's out left wing 3, Connor Lammert. Nothing but nylon. Texas taking a lead into halftime. They're going to be up 45-43 as the fans are getting hyped. Over in left wing now, there's the Senior Day, Jonathan Holmes Day, whatever you want to call it. Either way, he's out of the funk. And that's a 3-pointer. Here's Isaiah Taylor. I hope you're hungry. Isaiah brought the peanut butter and DeMarcus Holland with the jam. Might as well call him the Breakfast Club. Here's Isaiah Taylor once again. They call him Swaggy Zay, putting it away. Texas will go up big, and they will go on to win 62-49. And Alyssa Killebrew, our very own reporter, has more from the Drum on Senior Day.
Texas men's basketball took on Kansas State in their last home game of the season. Texas came out on top with a 62-49 win against the Wildcats. Coach Barnes stresses how defense was an important key factor in this Texas win.
We spent a lot of time this week on rebounding, a lot of time talking defense, and wanted to be more aggressive and get out there. And so we haven't focused on anything other than winning this game today and what we had to do to do it. We can win games, and but at the end of the game, you know your guards have to come through for you. I mean, and they have to, and they've got to be able to, whether it's make a shot or get guys some pretty good looks at it. But if we'll just keep playing defense and rebounding, it will, that's what's been the difference for in the last couple of weeks. The last 4 games, we've defended much better consistently.
But the big question is, can this Texas team make it to the NCAA tournament? Coach Barnes' answer is simple. You got to win games.
You know, are we good enough to be? Absolutely. In terms of, you know, I go back to the game at Kansas was a huge game, and I thought we played well enough to win that game. But we still got games out in front of us. If we've done enough to be in it, we'll be in it. And I do think that we should keep wanting to win games. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. You play your way in it.
Texas will take on Texas Tech in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. For College Press Box, I'm Alyssa Killebrew.
So the Horns as we saw there, the Horns have a little bit of momentum heading into the Big 12 tournament on a 2-game win streak. What has been the key to the Horns winning these last 2 games?
Right, well, before that, they had lost, remember, 4 in a row, all the top 25 opponents. So really the key for me is quite simple. It's just playing 40 minutes of basketball the way they can play at times 10 to 20 minutes of a team that looks like a top 5, top 10 team in the country, like they were earlier in the preseason and in their first 7 games when they didn't have a single loss. So Texas has played well at times, but it was really their resilience in the last 5 minutes against Baylor to force that one to overtime, and they were finally able to put a nice stretch of a game together against the Wildcats, who do struggle away from the Octagon of Doom up there in Manhattan. But either way, it's a solid win, and I'm not going to say they're in the tournament just yet, but it is a nice way to get back and put themselves in the conversation on the bubble. After losing 4 straight, it didn't look like they had a shot.
Okay, so the Horns are slated to play Texas Tech in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, and then Iowa State if they beat the Red Raiders.
Right.
What are your expectations for Texas in the Big 12 conference tournament?
Well, I would say they have to be measured because the Big 12 is such a gauntlet in general, and we saw that in conference play, just how hard it is to run through the Big 12 in general, game after game, and that's really what the Big 12 tournament is, just all clumped together. And so I think Texas gets past Texas Tech and puts themselves inside the tournament, I believe, on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, but that's just because I think Texas Tech is the worst team in the Big 12. They struggled. It's not a good matchup. They're more of a small guard team. If Texas goes big, I think they should have no problem with that. The problem is Iowa State, and that would be the next game in the bracket. Iowa State is not a team that matches up well against the Longhorns. They can shoot from outside. They can go in and get rebounds, which is supposed to be the Longhorns' big advantage. So really, I think that's the problem for the Longhorns, is after Texas Tech, when you go and play Iowa State, a team that you've lost to twice already, and one time it wasn't even close in that matchup in Ames if it wasn't for a late comeback.
Okay, so Reese, do you think that the Longhorns will make it into March Madness, or are they on your next into tournament list?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think a few weeks ago I would have said they are headed for an NIT bid, but I think after these last couple of wins, and if you watch Texas play and they play with these top 25 teams, they look worthy of a top 50, top 25 RPI team that's deservedly in the tournament. So I think they do beat Texas Tech, and I think that gets them in, but that's relying on a couple of things, and mainly is it's the smaller schools like a Murray State, like a Northern Iowa, winning their tournaments because they're already in, and they would get an automatic bid over Texas if they didn't win their conference tournament. So if you have upsets in those conference tournament where these little rinky-dink schools get in by their automatic bid, then you have less at-large spots, and that really puts Texas in a tough position.
Well, Texas does play Texas Tech Wednesday at 8, so we'll see how your predictions hold up.
We sure will. And up next, we will head back and check in on the Longhorn ladies and see if they're shooting match the recent weather in Austin. Stay dry and keep it right here.
Welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us. Let's see if some Longhorn ladies basketball domination can lighten the mood on this dreary Monday night. The Texas women took center court as Texas torched TCU. Now try and say that 5 times fast. To send its seniors out with a bang. Back to the Frank Irwin Center we go for the highlights. All right, we have the Longhorn ladies senior night. And here we have a pass by Henderson to Brady Sanders. She takes it in for the 3. Texas is up 8-4. Their lead will only grow from here. Sanders pushes it up the court, passes to Empress Davenport for 2 points for the jumper right here. Texas is up 13-4 in the first half. Brooke McCarty lobs it to Imani McGee. and then she'll take it in for 2. Texas is now up 15-4. And Christy Henderson passes to Ariel Atkins for the first of her 3-pointers. She's going to have another one right here in a second with another assist by Davenport. Now Texas is up 50-32. Now Imani McGee will block TCU's Kara Bradshaw, absolutely denied. And Brady Sanders again will dish it to Selena Rodrigo for a jump shot. Texas is now up 60-33. And Selena Rodrigo feeds it inside to Lily Vanderzee for her first points of the season. Texas is up 71-43. And Texas will win the game 79-45.
It was senior night at the Drum on Tuesday evening as Texas.
Brianna Santiago has more from Texas Ladies Senior Night.
It was senior night at the Drum on Tuesday evening as Texas really wanted to pull off a win for their graduating class.
Because this is their last home game, and this is the last time that they'll be able to put on a uniform in the Frank Irwin Center. And so I think that it just really motivated all of us, and I would definitely hope that they think that we made them proud.
With this win tonight, the Longhorns were able to send their seniors off in style and have some momentum going into the Big 12 tournament.
I thought we shot the ball fairly well. We made some pretty good decisions, especially in the second half. I thought our decision-making was better against their zone. We cut our turnovers down. But a great way for the seniors to go out. I think that was the part of the motive of today. We wanted to win 20 games.
The team's confidence is rising as Texas prepares for the postseason. It's all about teamwork and playing with passion.
Everybody's engaged, the bench is contributing, and everybody's jumping up and down. That's the way that we like to play. And if we play like that all the time, then I don't think anybody can stop us.
Brianna Santiago, College Press Box.
The Texas women have been on fire lately, Reese, and are playing in the Big 12 Tournament Championship. Let's talk a little bit more about those Lady Longhorns.
For sure.
Okay, so the Texas women beat number 3 seed TCU and number 2 seed Oklahoma to advance to the Big 12 Championship. What are the keys to the Horns winning the Big 12?
Right, there's several of them that really stick out to me. And if you go back throughout the season, Texas, who at one point lost 8 out of its 10 games, remember they were as high as number 3 in the nation and received votes for first place for 4 weeks in a row, really went through that mid-season slump. This team's been maybe the most injured in the NCAA. Finally, besides Nneka and Polly and Nakia Jones, everyone's starting to come together. Everyone's starting to become healthy. But what's really prolonged this, it extended this winning streak, winning 7 of the last 8 games, propelling them into the tournament, has been their outstanding defense. Held Oklahoma and TCU to season-low shooting percentages in the last 2 matches, along with limiting the turnovers. 5 consecutive games, they turned it over 25 times. They've brought that all the way down into the middle of the teens. So really those 2 numbers stick out to me a lot. Also, Brady Sanders and company have been lighting it up beyond the arc, 40% in the last 4 games. So really those are 3 things that stick out to me.
So, Reese, in your opinion, how far do you predict that the Longhorn women will go in the NCAA tournament, the Big Dance?
Right, and it is going to be huge, especially for a Longhorn team with tons of young talent, but also tons of expectations. And part of that stems from their impressive start
great way for the seniors
at the
to go
beginning
out.
of the
I think that
season.
was
But I do think they'll end up being around a 5 or a 6 seed when it's all said and done. So that's a pretty good spot. And really, who else is playing better than them in the Big 12 right now? They've won 7 out of their last 8 games, including their games over the weekend in the Big 12 tournament. So right now, I think it's hard to pick against them. I could see them going all the way into the Sweet 16, mainly because, look, TCU is a tournament-bound team, and they demolished them 1 week ago, beat them good again Saturday night. So right now, this is a team, momentum-wise, that is playing as good as anyone in the country. I don't think they have the depth overall, like they did earlier in the season, to contend for maybe an Elite 8 or a Final 4, but I think Sweet 16 and definitely round of 32 are pretty reasonable expectations for this team.
Can't help but agree with you, Reese. Well, the women are playing Baylor for the Big 12 title as we speak, so we'll see if you're right.
Right.
All right. Make sure to stick with us, because next we're talking everything you need to know about Texas baseball and softball and how their pre-conference games are going. Thanks for keeping it on College Press Box. The high-octane Texas offense continued to thrive as Texas softball opened play in the Carolina Classic with an 11-0 run rule victory over Ohio University in 5 innings. Texas put on an absolute hitting clinic with 3 3-run home runs from Devin Tuning, Aaron Shireman, and Tiara Davis. Davis herself went 3 for 3 on the day to spearhead Texas past Ohio. Senior pitcher Gabby Smith improved her record to 3-0 on the season from the circle. Texas dropped their next game against the North Carolina Tar Heels 8-3. Texas was only down 3-1 in the second inning, but a pair of hit batters and a costly error gave the Tar Heels 3 unearned runs. The Texas batters unsurprisingly out-hit the Tar Heels 8-6, but failed to dig the team out of the hole they were in by stranding numerous runners on base. Freshman pitcher Erica Wright took the loss in the circle. Wright, however, would bounce back with a strong showing on Saturday. She pitched a career-high 11 strikeouts through 6 innings to end Texas's stay at the Carolina Classic on a high note with a 5-0 win over Charlotte. Davis was again in peak form with 2 RBIs and a perfect percentage at the plate. The Longhorns popped off another scoring streak in the 4th inning to bring their lead to 5 and never looked back. Texas ended their stay at the Carolina Classic with a 2-1 record.
Texas baseball junior outfielder Colin Shaw has made a knack of making extraordinary catches in the green grasses of the Texas outfield. But over the weekend, Shaw had some of his best work in the sunken diamond as Texas traveled to play a 4-game set against the Stanford Cardinal. The number 18 Longhorns dropped the series opener 5-4 to the Cardinal despite 2 Ben Johnson long bombs. Texas was pretty good at putting runners on base and also matched that with stranding that many runners on base. A 9th inning rally ended on a Taylor Stell lineout that would have tied the game. Stell wasn't done in the series, however. The junior homered in the 2nd game to provide Texas with a 3-0 advantage. Casey Clemens and company couldn't protect the lead, though, as Stanford fought back and took the lead back in the bottom of the 6th inning. The Cardinal went on to win that one 5-3. Texas lost its 4th game in a row. In Game 3, Parker French and the bullpen were just outstanding, stranding Cardinal base runners in the final 3 frames. Colin Shaw drove in 2 Longhorn runs with his baseball-leading 11th double of the season. Texas needed a split in that 4th game, and they would go for it in a big way. The Longhorns tallied 15 total hits, 9 walks, and every starter in that lineup notched at least 1 hit. Trace Barrera and Zane Gurwitz joined the weekend bomb squad as Texas went on to win 12-4 and split the weekend series.
All right, so Reese, you're a big baseball guy.
Sure.
What is this year's Texas baseball team's strong suit?
Man, and it seems so different than what normally we think of Texas when we think of pitching in a team that struggles to score in a big ballpark. And part of it is the change in the baseball with the smaller teams. Home runs are flying out at a little bit of higher level. But let's think about this. The Longhorns hit 5 home runs this past weekend. They didn't have a player all last year that hit more than 4, and that was Trace Barrera. And Barrera is already at 3 this season. So really the strength for me this season is this Texas lineup. You have an interesting combination of juniors like Colin Shaw, like C.J. Hinojosa, young sophomore Zane Gurwitz, but then you have the freshman power in there with guys like Michael Cantu, Brett Boswell. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I really think the lineup is the strength, and it's so hard for me to say, but if there's going to be a weakness on this exciting club, I think it's got to be the pitching staff. And you look at, there's not really one established starter besides Parker French, and they talked about moving him to the bullpen earlier on in the season. And a lot of that stems from injuries to guys like Ty Culbreth, Ty Marlowe, guys like Morgan Cooper, who were supposed to be there really right from the beginning. This starting staff doesn't have anybody else besides Josh Sawyer, Casey Clemens, Chad Hollingsworth. Now, Chad will always be remembered from his big game against A&M last year in the regionals, of course, but that doesn't mean he's a consistent starter. So the rotation still has many questions for me.
So if there is a chink in their armor, it's the pitching staff.
For sure.
All right. And so what can we take away from the split series with Stanford?
Well, it's interesting because Stanford's always a good team. They're always a good ball club, and these teams face a lot. Augie Garrido loves going against those guys because they play fundamental baseball. I think what we learned is this Texas team is a resilient team that can fight back, but they are going to go through some slumps. And when they do, like we saw last year where they lost 3 straight Big 12 weekend series, if they struggle to hit the baseball, they're not going to win many games. So I think that's the big difference. Last year they could rely on guys like Dylan Peters to shut the other team down and they wouldn't have to score but maybe 3 runs. This year I think that's a little bit different, and so I think that's where we may see some lumps, and I think that was evident this weekend.
So what would you say Longhorn fans should be the most concerned about as this team moves forward?
Right, well, there are many bullpen questions, and the bullpen's been very good. They started out their first 29 innings without giving up a run, but I think it all goes back to the starting pitching staff. And Augie Rito talks a lot about it. When you have a solid starting staff, everything else can be masked, and he focuses a lot on pitching, defense, and small ball. And really, right now, with that Texas pitching staff, you have guys like Connor Mays, a freshman, who may end up, he's starting tomorrow night against Incarnate Word, and these guys may end up starting a weekend series for the Longhorns just because if Josh Sawyer, Casey Clemens prove that they can't compete in that weekend series, that's where Texas may struggle. So right now, not a whole lot of established pitching, especially in big-time Big 12 weekend series, and that's really the problem right now, and something we'll see develop as the year goes on.
All right. Coming up, we'll check out the scope on the 40 acres with our man on the street and tell you what sports to watch before spring break. Don't start break now. We're turning here. Welcome back, and thanks for spending your Monday night kicking it with us. As March Madness approaches, Katarina Biancardi decided to take to the 40 acres to get some pointers on what to expect from the best and brightest here at UT.
Biancardi here with this week's Man on the Street right outside the Frank Irwin Center. We're here to talk about Texas men's basketball fate based on what UT students say. Let's go check it out. So, do you think Texas can claim a Big 12 title?
After all these losses this year, I'm not sure. We've been lacking on the skills. I don't know if we're even going to make it to the tournament.
I hope so. I think Kansas State can. Oh, of course, definitely. We just have to, we have our momentum going right now, so we can totally win out. I mean, we're already mathematically winning, so no.
Okay, so do you think they can also win a national championship?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we got the skill, but I'm not sure about how much.
I'm about to give that one to Kansas. They're a good Big 12 team, and they put up good fights against us, so I'd give it to them.
I mean, they have the talent to do it. That being said, probably not, given what we've watched all year. But I'm hoping that they get in as a 12 team, maybe pull a 12 over 5 upset. That'd be exciting.
If you don't think Texas is going to win, who do you think would be the national champions?
I mean, no one else is like as good as Texas. Definitely. Honestly, we got this in the bag. Hard to pick against Kentucky right now.
I would say either Duke, because it's always got a good team. They always get those recruits in.
Yeah.
Maybe UNC, we'll see. UPA has also got a pretty good team, so we'll see what happens in the tournament. Boys, we have the Cinderella team coming in. Maybe it could be Texas if we make it into the tournament. We're not sure though, but we'll see.
From enthusiastic yeses to affirmative no's, we'll see what this Texas men's basketball team has to bring us for the NCAA tournament or the NIT. This is Katarina Biancardi with Man on the Street.
Most of you, including me, may be ready for spring break, but until then, you can watch these Texas sports in action over the week. Coming up this week, women's basketball actually playing Baylor right now on Fox Sports 1. Later in the week on Tuesday, women's golf is at the UNF Collegiate, and men and women's diving are in action later this Wednesday.
On Tuesday, we have baseball versus Incarnate Word at 6 p.m. You can catch that on the Longhorn Network. On Wednesday, we have men's basketball versus Texas Tech at 8. That's part of the Big 12 Championship Tournament. And we also have men's basketball in the Big 12 Championships. That's a little presumptuous.
Well, Thursday, if that doesn't get you riled up, I'm sure men's tennis versus Michigan State will. Friday, you've got baseball in West Virginia in the first Big 12 game, more women's tennis, and a little track and field at the Indoor Championships over the weekend.
On Saturday, you can catch women's tennis at Oklahoma State at 12 p.m. You can catch softball at Arkansas at 1 p.m. on the SEC Network, and baseball versus West Virginia at 5 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. Then Sunday, we have baseball again versus West Virginia at 12:30, and softball also at Arkansas.
Well, before we go, we have a few Longhorns who have developed a knack for the spectacular. And to add to that stellar defense, Colin Shaw added another feather in his burnt orange cap over the weekend with a couple of amazing catches. This was earlier in the year. Colin Shaw is at the upper left part of your screen, coming in there making a diving catch. Had another one, had to recover there a little bit, had another one last year at Oklahoma. And here's Friday night, a long drive deep into the corner in the sunken diamond. You can see Shaw there laying out and making the catch through the trees there, just barely. But if that wasn't enough, his teammate Taylor, and then we're going to see one more time here as Shaw is going to span over and lay out hashtag SC Top 10 or CPB Top 10, whatever you want. Taylor Stell, on the other hand, said, big man, my brother, I'm going to do you one better. Taylor Stell laid out, made an incredible catch for himself, and wouldn't you know, several Longhorns have developed a knack for the spectacular.
And also, before we go, Reese, what are you doing for spring break?
Man, I am entering my first national flight, so fingers crossed.
Hey, don't get too nervous, buddy.
Okay.
Just put in your headphones. Well, I'm going to Arkansas, not quite as glamorous, so. Well, thanks for tuning in to College Press Box. Make sure to catch us every Monday at 9:30 and tune in Wednesdays at 9 to catch College Crossfire. Follow College Press Box on Twitter at College Press Box and Crossfire at College Xfire. For everybody in Master Control and Studio, Reese Miller, I'm Allie Fleming. Good night.
And if they trying to doubt the South, that's fine. We riding dirty at the same time, shine. For all the dope boys pushing on the ground.